Hello and welcome to the TMZ podcast. I'm Charlie Cotton, and joining me on the podcast today is our Lothario lawyer, Derek Kaufman.
Sometimes legal Lothario, sometimes Lothario lawyer. I like it.
What do you
whatever
prefer?
you put on it. I'd rather be a legal Lothario.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Why?
because sometimes Lotharioing can get a little illegal, and I just want to know that everything's above board with me.
Okay, fair enough. Makes sense. Wow, today is
Big
just
news day.
It's a shocking day for news, to be honest. We'll talk about an Olympic boxer who is a transgender female competing in the male division, who won her first fight spectacularly, and now it's just a massive controversy.
Been so many happy stories out of the Olympics, and now here's a big controversy, the first big one of the Olympics.
We'll talk about Pete Davidson. He's seeking mental health help at a wellness facility. Not looking great for him right now.
Yep.
Baby Reindeer, we've got a twist in the saga because it turns out the real-life Martha, who was depicted in the show as a serial stalker, Fiona, she wasn't convicted for stalking.
What a postscript to such a phenomenon that show was. And it was really got big because it said based on a true story. And
Right.
That's what hooked people into it. And now this huge development. We'll talk about it.
But to begin with, the most shocking news of all, Cardi B files for divorce from Offset hours after we see her pregnant.
Unbelievable. This is the bombshell of all bombshells because it always seems to be brewing underneath the surface because there's pictures of Offset that surface. He was recently seen in a casino, I believe.
Yes.
With another woman who was an ex of his.
Who was pregnant as
who
well.
was pregnant as well. And he's been posting sort of cryptic denials like, that's not my shorty, things of that nature. And we were speculating that it's okay to be seen with a pregnant ex because clearly she's in another relationship and all this kind of stuff. Now we get the divorce, and it's the second time she's filed. The first one she backed off and said, look, stay out of my business. I love my man. We've got 2 kids together. I think enough is enough. I think this one sticks. She's been so publicly embarrassed by this guy that Cardi B, who's very proud and outspoken, I don't think she can go back to him. I think this is it.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise you have like a Khloe Kardashian situation where you just keep going back to the same guy who keeps doing the same thing.
And Khloe's brand is sort of meek and I'll say it, a little bit pathetic that she kept going back to Tristan after the multiple sort of infidelity allegations and frankly, true things that were out there. This is, Cardi B's, her reputation as a brash rapper really sort of is teetering unless she just goes through with this. Offset's just really disrespected her.
So sources close to Cardi say this is a long time coming. The two have been growing apart. They're just disconnected from each other. Late last year, Cardi had posted, when you just outgrow relationships, I'm tired of protecting people's feelings. I got to put myself first. But from there, they tried to work things out. Clearly, it didn't take.
Yeah, look, I mean, disconnected is putting it mildly. This guy's out there. They've got 2 young children. I believe it's Culture and Crave?
And Wave.
Wave, I'm sorry.
Crave.
Culture and Wave, 5 and 2 years old. This is a young family, and he doesn't even publicly seem to be leading the life of a doting father. At times, he's good with the kids. You can see some of their social media posts. He does seem to love her and love the family, but he doesn't know how to sort of become a mature sort of, I don't know, like domestic father at this point. He wants to be out there. He's a big rapper and wants to have that lifestyle of going to casinos with other women. It doesn't mesh.
Well, Cardi is asking for primary custody of the kids. This is just crazy.
It's mind-boggling.
Question.
It's a big thing.
How many kids does Offset have on the way? 0, 1, or 2?
The fact that we even have to ask these questions is a testament to how rocky things have been.
Right.
And maybe he has some kids on the way. I don't know, and I don't even know if Cardi knows, but she knows.
What do you mean? She must know who got her pregnant.
I gotta get. You're wondering whether Cardi's.
Okay. Let me lay it out a bit better.
Got it.
There's a pregnant woman he was seen with yesterday.
I got you.
His wife Cardi is pregnant. Is he the father of either of those 2 kids, both of them, or none of them?
It's unbelievable that we're asking this question. I believe he is the father of the baby inside of Cardi.
Right.
Beyond that, I'm not even going to speculate, but that question is popping into your mind is truly says a lot about who Offset is, at least as a public figure.
Yeah.
And, I feel for Cardi. She's she is so transparent about her life that you can really see her going through it. When she posted those tearful ones, those tearful posts back in, I think it was in December.
Yeah, she gets upset on
she's working through the issues live in
Yeah.
front of an audience of millions of people. These are hard enough things to deal with your close friends and family. And she's just like, I got to put myself first. You can hear her wrestling with it because at her core, there's something like conservative about Cardi. And I'll put it out this way. She does seem like a very family-oriented person. She has sort of traditional values in some sense. And she just can't tame this guy. She just wasn't able to. And I'm sure she feels a lot of sadness over the failure of this marriage. But I do think this will be better for the kids long term. It's sad to see a family break up, but it's also really difficult to live with a guy who's out and about and having these rumors chase him.
On to our next story. A crazy controversy is emerging at these Olympics with a boxer who was born with male chromosomes, but is now a transgender female.
Yep.
And competing in the Olympics at boxing, won her first fight in 46 seconds because her opponent, an Italian lady, said she just couldn't take those punches.
Yeah, so the transgender female's name is Iman Khalif, and she defeated Italy's Angela Carini just 46 seconds into this match with a couple punches to the face. And what happened was the Italian woman said, this is unjust. And she went to her corner, sort of threw up her hands in disgust. She indicated that the punches just felt too painful. And this has raised a lot of questions. This is a big part of sort of culture wars and politics in our country, obviously, transgender athletes and so forth. And now you've got sort of an instance of a combat sport where a biological woman says that a transgender female who was born a biological male hurt her too much. And this is going to raise all these issues of safety, particularly in combat sports. You know, she says, I got hurt by someone who has more testosterone than me and has been disqualified in previous competitions. So the IOC in the Olympics has lower standards, and you could put it another way, is more inclusive of transgender athletes. But other competitions have disqualified Khalif, saying we don't want to have you potentially hurt biological women in these competitions. So we got a real issue here now because she was hurt, or at least the Italian woman says she was hurt. She feels it's unjust. She worked hard to get to the Olympics, and in 46 seconds, she's knocked out.
So this was the first fight for the Algerian boxer, and she plans to win gold. And I don't know if she's going to get there. Like, I don't know if there's going to be such an uproar that maybe they'll withdraw her from the competition, or maybe she'll go on and win gold and it'll just be a massive, massive debate. But I can just see this is brewing because, as you say, it's already brewing. I didn't realize that that transgender females competed in the Olympics. I thought at this stage it was collegiate and I don't know, lower, but I didn't realize at combat sports in the Olympics we have this sort of like controversy brewing.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I want to give Khalif her fair due. I mean, she was admitted to the Olympics. She hasn't cheated in any way. She submitted to all the testing.
Correct.
And the Olympics said it's okay for you to compete in the women's boxing tournament. So that's what she's doing, and she should do her best. And if she gets a medal, that's great. This is on the Olympic Committee whether they want to change their standards going forward. But I don't think you can kick out a boxer who you've admitted and has worked hard herself and should be able to compete at least now. You know, what's interesting, you're right. At the collegiate level, we've seen some of this in college where that Pennsylvania swimmer was dominating.
Swimming and running, like
that's different than combat.
That is different than combat. And me personally, I've always been on the side of these transgender females who are, you know, just trying to do their sport and they've got a love, they've got a passion for it. I think it'd be really unfair to disqualify these people because it's just, at the end of the day, it's just sport and these people are doing what they love to do. But it shocked me that it's at the Olympics with a combat sport.
It's going to raise a lot of questions, you're right, because most of the time the people saying they shouldn't be able to even swim against female athletes, at least no one's getting hurt. To your point, it's sport, it's competition, and people are saying it's unfair, I can't win my races, is different than I'm going into a ring and I'm getting injured because this person is just physically stronger than me. It's going to raise a lot of safety issues. I wonder if this will result in a sort of splitting of the baby on this issue where in non-contact sports, maybe there's more inclusivity exclusivity, but in contact sports, there's more questions about and more testing, because if this woman was really injured, raises a lot of questions. I mean, sports are supposed to be safe at a minimum, and we're supposed to see these competitions and they should be giving it their all. But if her all results in injuring a lot of competitors, it's going to be a problem going forward.
Okay, on to our next story. Pete Davidson has checked himself into a mental health clinic. We're not sure why exactly he went this time, but in the past he's gone because he's got some...
He's been on record that he does these tune-ups, right?
These tune-ups,
that he
exactly.
Says sometimes his substance abuse and his mental sort of issues get away from him a little bit, and he needs to check himself in, and he has a self-awareness enough to go in, get himself straightened out, and then reemerge. I'm not sure you should treat recovery from these types of things as a tune-up. I'm not sure about that. I've never thought because I've heard him say this, and it sounds all good in public to be like, I knew things were spiraling, so I checked in, got a lube change, like it's an oil change, and came back out. I'm not sure you tackle the deeper issues, but it seems to work for him. I mean, he does have these bouts of some sobriety. He says he's only using weed now. He's given up some of the harder drugs. And look, he's productive. He works a lot in Hollywood. He has shows. He's able to be sort of a contributing member of society. Maybe this works for him.
Hopefully, yeah. He's said in the past that he suffers from a personality disorder and PTSD. So
yeah, look, he's had a hard life in a lot of ways, right? I mean, his father was one of the victims of 9/11. His father was a firefighter, so he's certainly dealt with his share of trauma, and he's dealt with it pretty publicly, and he's had obviously very high profile relationships. I'm not his biggest fan, but I don't want to pile on him. This is a good thing to seek mental health treatment when you need it. There should be no embarrassment over this kind of stuff, and he's doing it.
You are not his biggest fan just because he's known to have a big one. He's got a big one. You've got known to have a small one.
Hey, listen, the world thinks so. You know?
Is that right?
I've been hiding in plain sight.
Okay, on to our last story. The real life Martha, or Fiona from Baby Reindeer, turns out she wasn't convicted for stalking. Netflix has admitted that she wasn't convicted of stalking, which is crazy because we all thought, because they wrote it on the screen, that this is a true story. And then we see these interviews of like the guy who made it, Richard Gadd. We see this real life Martha
on Piers Morgan, where she seemed to be a little strange at a minimum, and people were like, "Oh, you're definitely a stalker." Now I believe it, and now she's proven it in some sense. Netflix, it sounds like, submitted a letter to Parliament where they said she was never convicted of stalking. We've never found evidence of a conviction. This is very big for her because the people who, and I count myself as one of them, I was hooked into that series on Netflix largely because it said it was a true story, and it was so out there that I was like, holy cow, I got to watch this. If it were just
it said, does it change it that it says based on a true story?
That's how they always get around
I know.
Based on, and Richard Gadd, to his credit, has said, I embellished. Obviously, I'm making a series, and I'm trying to heighten the dramatic moments somewhat. But what really hooks you in when you see that is like how crazy it is. If it were presented as a purely fictional tale, it'd be much less interesting. I mean, it wouldn't have been the phenomenon that it became.
If it's half and half, you say based on a true story, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's what he was going for. But they say some pretty real things, and that was damaging once the world found out who he was sort of profiling in this series. They latched on, and it became difficult for this woman who is now, if she wasn't convicted of stalking, I don't think you should really say that. That shouldn't be a liberty you take.
That was
it harmed my reputation and my ability to go through the world.
That was the ending of the show.
Yeah,
that she gets sentenced and sent away.
And the whole show is about how she sent countless sort of messages and profane things.
But it makes you question exactly what's true now. Like maybe she has a point about all of it. It's probably in the middle of where both of them are saying it is.
That's right. It doesn't mean that none of it was true. Obviously, some of it was true, and she's not going to be able to say, like, I never had any contact with this guy. But when you say someone's been convicted of a crime, you can verifiably prove whether or not that happened. And that might have been a bridge too far. That's why we have lawyers, in our organization. When you say certain things that can be demonstrably true or false, it's a problem if you harm someone's reputation with a false statement. You can have whatever opinions you want about her as a person. That's okay, but you got to stick to some facts.
Well, Netflix must have just wanted to tie a bow on the series and have it ending with her going off to prison or whatever. but that bow was not true. You
Now,
know what I mean?
they're going to say this was a fictional character who's, ever heard of a composite character?
Yeah.
This isn't based on, we didn't use Martha's name. This isn't really Martha. This is inspired by his experience with this real life person. So they're going to have a lot of latitude. I'm sure their lawyers heavily vetted this, and they've got top flight lawyers at Netflix. So, but I bet they're sweating a little bit. This isn't a good development. This isn't good that.
But they must have known.
Facts.
They must have known, right?
They must have.
They must have known that this lady didn't go to prison.
I can tell you
along.
that if we did a series like that, we would know whether or not, and we'd know whether we wanted to take that risk. And I don't think it's a risk we would have taken, frankly.
Because this Fiona herself, she has filed a $170 million defamation lawsuit. And it'll be interesting to see if it shakes out.
Now, I'll tell you what she's done, though. By filing a $170 million lawsuit, she may be able to prove that she didn't get convicted of stalking. But what she's opened herself up to is an entire examination of her life. If she wants to open the door to what are the factual things in this series and what are the non-factual things, it's going to be uncomfortable for her at a minimum because it's going to cause a full examination of everything. So we'll see. I think this kind of case will settle now that she's been able to say, I wasn't a convicted stalker. Netflix doesn't want to go line by line. I'm sure she doesn't want to go line by line. I hope they're able to come to some agreement where they can put it behind them and people can just enjoy the series.
What a shocking day for news, Derek.
Big, big day, Charlie.
I'm glad you're here alongside me to read it all out, give your opinions.
Always fun.
And sorry for saying you got a small one. I'm sorry about that.
We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.